Welcome into Rogue Football. I'm your host, Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We have got some NFL Combine Day 1 standouts, some edge players, defensive tackles, linebackers that went out there and balled out, made themselves some money. There are guys that make money at this event every year, some that might lose a little bit of money depending on how the draft stock is impacted. Some of that is going to be the on-field work, the testing. Some of it is the medicals, the interviews. Different things can impact players in different ways, but we've got 5 defensive tackles, 5 edge players, and 5 linebackers that balled out here at the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine. We'll start with the defensive tackles. They were out there first. Braden Fisk, my goodness. 6'4", 292 pounds. And these weights, a lot of them are going to come in lighter than what these guys actually play. They're trying to run as fast as they can out there, so they're trying to get a little bit lower on the scale so that they can run faster in the 40-yard dash, test well. But yeah, 292 pounds for Braden Fisk. This is a guy that has short arms. We know that. He's sawn off. But 4.78 40-yard dash at 292 pounds, 1.68 10-yard split, 33.5-inch vert, 9.9 broad, 4.37 20-yard shuttle. He had the best 40 of all the defensive tackles, the best vert of all the defensive tackles, the best broad jump of all the defensive tackles, the best 20-yard shuttle of all the defensive tackles. Geez, man. I mean, he was so smooth out there in the field work. And you talk about Braden Fisk, this is a player that shows up on tape every time you put on Florida State film, Western Michigan from before that. Braden Fisk is a ball of energy. He has great athleticism. He's going to be an early day 2 pick, in my opinion. I think that he's just too good to pass up on. He can be a 3-tech type of player, 5-tech as well. Play the run as a 5-tech, really penetrate as a 3-tech. I think that you want Braden Fisk in your building. Byron Murphy, 6'1.5". Big hands, over 10-inch hands, 297 pounds. Actually, pretty good proportional length, right? Being only 6 foot, having 32.5-inch arms, that's good proportional length. 4.87 40-yard dash at 297 pounds, 1.69 10 split, 33-inch vert. So natural moving around out there. Well put together, Byron Murphy is. He's looking like he's going to maybe push to be a top 10 pick, maybe be the first defensive tackle off the board. I still have our guy from Illinois, Johnny Newton, as the top defensive tackle, and he was not able to participate. He will do these drills and all that good stuff at his pro day, but hell of a day for Byron Murphy. Ruka Rororo out of Clemson, 4.89 40-yard dash, 1.67 10 split, 32-inch vert, 9.8 broad. He's 6'4", 294 pounds, has 34-inch arms. Great length. Such an impressive day for him. This is a guy that on tape, very stout run defender, brings a lot of energy. I think he has a budding pass rush skill set, kind of came to football a little bit later on in life, so doesn't have the same amount of experience that a lot of these other guys have, but I think Rook is going to be a riser. I think somebody who should go on day 2 of the NFL draft. I had him as a day 2 prospect last year. He decided to stay in school at Clemson along with Tyler Davis, and they both came out this year, and I think that they're both going to have nice NFL careers. Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, 6'3", 299 pounds, the son of Chris Jenkins Sr., who obviously played in the NFL for a long time, 34-inch arms, so he's got great length at his size, 4.91 40-yard dash, 1.7 10 split, 30-inch vert, 9.7 broad. He looked exactly how I expected, such a well-rounded athlete, very crisp, smooth in the on-field work. Chris Jenkins is a guy who's very stout run defender. I think you have pass rush upside with him because you see some pass rush flashes on tape, a spin counter. You've got some hand usage that you can get excited about. Wasn't super consistent at Michigan as a pass rusher, but I think part of that had to do with just their defensive front, their scheme. I think that Chris Jenkins has a bright future ahead of him, probably a second-round pick. Dwayne Carter, I have a round 2 grade on, was really impressive at 6'2", 302 pounds, 33-inch arms, huge hands, 4.99 40-yard dash, 1.72 10 split, 32-inch vert, 9.1 broad. I think that Dwayne Carter is the type of prospect that has gone under the radar a little bit. Had a really nice week at the Senior Bowl, has done really good things the last few years at Duke. I think he has the potential to be a 3-down defensive tackle for you that can be stout against the run, but also penetrate against the pass. So love what he did for himself out there. Dallas Turner, looking at the edge guys, unbelievable. 6'3", just under 6'3", 247 pounds, 34 and 3/8 inch arms. That is insane proportional length. The wingspan is massive. Very big hands at his size as well. 4.46 40-yard dash. He was flying. And then pairs that with a 40.5 inch vert. He will be the first edge off the board. The tape is pretty damn good. You see the heavy hands. You see the flashes of the pass rush arsenal that's not super consistent yet. But his ability to be whatever you need in any system, I think, is going to be the ultimate calling card for him. If you run a 3-4, he can absolutely be a 3-4 outside linebacker, drop into coverage, move around the formation. I think he can play 4-3 defensive end with his length, explosiveness, and heavy hands. I think he can do anything for you when it comes to being an edge at the NFL level. Now, a guy in Chop Robinson, who I think is more cut out to be a 3-4 outside linebacker at 6'3", 254 pounds, 32.5 inch arms, so not great length there, but not horrible proportional length. 4.48 40-yard dash, 1.54 10 split, 34.5 inch vert, 10.8 broad. That was best in show among these edge players. 4.25 shuttle, second best among the edge players. Fastest 40-yard dash over 250 pounds ever, I believe. I saw that yesterday. So Chop Robinson, he absolutely did not disappoint. And again, even though he's not necessarily looked at as big as Dallas Turner because he doesn't have the length, right? He's 254 pounds. That's a nice weight for Chop Robinson. I think he's going to be a tremendous, at worst, designated pass rusher that dominates in that regard because he can bend around the top of the arc at full speed. He can work through you. He can work inside as well. So I just love the game that he brings. I think as a 3-4 outside linebacker, you can start him from day one. Muhammad Kamara, one of my guys out of Colorado State, 4.57 40-yard dash. He was flying out there at 6'1", 248 pounds, 1.58 10 split, 33.5 inch vert, 10.3 broad. He showed out. He looked really good. He's not the most flexible, the most bendy guy, but just such good natural leverage and very explosive. So excited to see what this does for his draft stock. Jared Verse, he showed how explosive he is as well. 4.58 40-yard dash, 1.6 10 split, 35 inch vert, 10.7 broad. He has so much speed to power, so much explosiveness in his frame. Heavy hands. He was 6'4", 254 pounds with 33 inch arms, big hands. I think this is a guy that just cemented how explosive he can be. I think he's not going to make it past 15 in this draft. If he does, I think you might see some teams trying to trade up to get that type of guy. He's absolutely a big-time starting edge in the NFL. Leatu Latu, same thing, man. 6'5", 259 pounds. He doesn't have the length of some of these guys. He doesn't have the insane 40-yard dash, but 4.6, 4.40. I was impressed by that. At 259 pounds, he's not an elite athlete out there, but he is a very, very good athlete, and he is an elite technician. He has been. He has quickness. He has flexibility. So I think Leatu Latu had a good day for himself, and I know he's going to crush interviews. I know he's going to really shine a good light on himself when he meets with some of these teams. It's going to be all about the medicals for him, and I think that they should be good to go. Played 2 straight years, no big injuries. After having to medically retire at Washington, moved over to UCLA, got his career back on track. But looking at some of these off-ball linebackers, Peyton Wilson, man, 4.43 40-yard dash, 10 split, unbelievable, 1.54, 34.5 inch vert. He is such a special athlete and a very special prospect. Similar to Leatu Latu, has had some injury history, some medical history, so that's going to be the big thing for him. I think he'll interview well, but as an off-ball linebacker, he's a little sawn off, doesn't have long arms, but for me, he is the best prospect on the field as an off-ball linebacker in this class. A lot of people think Edgerrin Cooper is the top guy, and I understand why. He's an absolute freak. To me, he needs to clean up his eyes a little bit, but what an athlete. 34 inch arms, 4.51 40-yard dash, 1.54 10 split, 34.5 inch vert. He's going to make a lot of money when it comes to the NFL draft, and a guy that if he can just develop a little bit, get in the right system, develop his instincts and his eyes, and make sure he's on his keys and learn how to shed blocks a little bit better, I think that he can be a star at the NFL level, off-ball linebacker. Trevin Wallace also has some things to clean up on tape, but a 4.51 40-yard dash at 237 pounds, 1.62 10 split, 37.5 inch vert. That's huge for him. 10.7 broad. He had a big day. I think that guys are going to have to go back and make sure Trevin Wallace, where do we have him on our board, right? Because I think he's mostly viewed as a day 3 prospect, but absolute freak show. Kalen DeLoach, only 210 pounds, but he's a good player out of Florida State, was one of the key cogs in one of the best defenses in the country. He ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. Really impressive. Yeah, so there were some absolute athletes out there today. But the important thing to remember is, does that athleticism show up on tape? For all these guys we just talked about, for the most part, it really does. And so I think that you've got the chance to have a really special group here of edge players, of defensive tackles and linebackers in this class. And I know the linebacker class isn't really viewed as a big time class. I think there's some guys that can absolutely play out there, and maybe they're not perfect coming into the NFL, but they have the athleticism and the profile to potentially become impact players. I think Peyton Wilson will be an impact guy from day one. Junior Colson didn't even participate out there because he was dealing with a little minor injury. I think he'll be able to go at his pro day at Michigan, but I think this is going to be a tremendous draft class. Really liked what I saw out there on day one of the combine. You've got defensive backs and tight ends coming up on Friday. I think you're going to see a lot of really impressive corners, safeties, and tight ends. Can't wait for it. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good weekend.